Could you please elaborate on the fact that Christians do not go to heaven? Did this misconception come from misguided materialist reading of Dante's Divine Comedy? Thank you for your work. So there is a way in which, so the best way to understand it is that there is a way in which Christians go to heaven, in the sense that there is this ascension, right? This ascension towards that which is above always, this going up the mountain, ascending the divine ladder. And so you can see in all that imagery, this idea of ascending has to do with the notion of going to heaven. But the problem with, when I say Christians don't go to heaven, it mostly has to do with this idea that people think that you die and you go to heaven. You don't die and go to heaven. You could say that you're reaching towards heaven your whole life. You're reaching towards heaven your whole existence. You're ascending the hierarchy, the spiritual hierarchy of virtues, your whole existence. And so the idea of dying and going to heaven, that's not how it works, right? It doesn't work. Not because you die that you go to heaven. Going to heaven is a transformation of the person, this ascension of the person up the levels of the spiritual hierarchy. That's what going to heaven is. And so in terms of eschatology, in terms of what happens after you die, there's rather the idea of the resurrection as the final result of the totality. So there's this idea that nothing is lost, right? Nothing is lost in the world. Consciousness, the pattern of consciousness is something which exists beyond your current body, and that there is a manner in which that pattern is going to exist in the totality of things, and that includes a form of bodily existence. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't want to speculate on what that means, but it's rather understanding that for patterns to really exist, they need to have a body. There are no pure patterns. The pure patterns is the only pure pattern is the divine logos, and the divine logos manifested himself in the flesh, and his body is the communion of the saints. So you could understand that creation, ultimately all of creation becomes something like the body of the divine logos, something like that. And so things exist in bodies, not necessarily physical bodies all the time, but it could be subtle bodies as well. That's a whole other question. I keep promising you that I'm going to talk about subtle bodies, but I need to find the right ways to talk about it so it doesn't sound like I'm just spouting gibberish.